Hello everyone, welcome to my Qt tips and tricks tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how to create a second window and open it from within your first window and a few other things related to that.
One thing I would like to add is that this is not going to be a comprehensive tutorial series on Qt. This is solely tips and tricks, like things which you would learn while working on Qt for weeks or months. I'm just sharing things I learned through purely experience to give you a head start into Qt. If you want a comprehensive series on Qt, I suggest checking out the playlist from Programming Knowledge. He has a really nice guideline series for beginners like you who are getting started with Qt.
Let's just create our Qt widgets application. I'm going to name it second window. I'm going to use QMake as our build system because it's easy to use compared to CMake, although CMake is better if you are talking about large scale projects. I'm going to use MinGW as our compiler, and I think you should know that if you want to use dynamic array sizing, then you have to use MinGW. But again, if you want to use Qt's built-in browser system, that is Q Web Engine, and which uses Chromium, actually you have to use Microsoft's MSVC compiler because it does not support MinGW does not support the Q Web Engine module. But then again, MSVC does not support dynamic array sizing that is determined during runtime. So you have to use malloc or new for that if you're using C++ or C. So let's get on to your project. So this is our default UI. So I'm just gonna add a push button. I'm gonna name it open. Also, another tip you should know, always rename the objects that you add because it's going to really help you in your development when you are going to do something programmatically and you need to address that element or that object in your UI. In that case, you should be able to remember the friendly names more than you would remember random push button number. So for this, I'm going to name it as open window. I'm going to use camel case as our naming scheme. So another thing that I like to do is in order to create the slots, I do not use connect usually, that is the syntax of connect. Rather, I use go to slot, which is far more convenient because it does everything for you. Here we have a function, a private slot function, which will allow us to execute any action that is defined within the function when clicked on the button. So for a second window, you can do it in two ways actually. So first you have to add a Qt design form class. Now the two ways is that you can either use main window or widget. Now the main way these two are different is that, say suppose you want to close the application when you close the first window regardless of the openness of the second window. That is, it doesn't matter if the second window is open or not. Like for example, if I click close over here, this part is also going to get closed. So wait, let me save them. Cancel and run. The compile times of Windows is always more than Mac. So here we have our basic UI. There's nothing going on in here. But the thing I was talking about, that for example close you want to close the application when you close the first window regardless of if you have the second window open or not. So like for example here, if I close Qt, the second window that was the selection window, it also went away with it. If you want to enable this feature, then in that case you have to use main window. This is because you have to set the parent of the second window as the first window. That is, the first window will be the parent of the second window. And if you are using QWidget as your second window, then when you will set parent, the QWidget will actually get smashed into the UI of the first window. Let me show you how it looks like. So let's create a designer form class here. I'm going to use QWidget to show you. So let's make it second window, wait, second window widget. So here we have our second window. Let's put some things into it so that we can recognize that it's our second window. Let's put a label in here and resize it. So now, in order to create, or that is in order to create a second window from within the first window, when you click on the button, you need to go to the first window, and here we have, remember, the open button. What we are going to do is create an object of the second window class as a pointer. Sorry about that. Another thing, Qt's internal debugging system is pretty robust, so you don't necessarily have to manually add the classes. Just you can just type away and Qt will all do it automatically for you. Although you have to click the button, it's not like Flutter, where as soon as you write a new class, Qt automatically the Flutter actually, sorry, Flutter automatically adds the new class you have written. So here we have the second window. So now what we want to do is show the second window. See, now our second window is open. But the problem is that if you close the first window, the application still keeps running. The second window is still here. Now this is something that you might want or might not want depending on your use case. For example, if this was something like a settings page, then you would want the second settings page to be closed as soon as you close the main window of your application. So in order to do that, in order to ensure that the application is closed, you have to set parent over here. But since the second window widget is a QWidget type, so as soon as you set parent over here, it's actually going to get smashed into the UI of your main window. See here, this is our second window, so the second window has actually got added into the UI of your first window because it's the parent. That's how QWidget works. So in order to fix this, you have to add the second window as a main window class. This behavior changed, blah blah, this always comes on its own because the .pro file has been changed. So this is our second window, which is a main window class. We are going to add a label in here so that we can tell it apart. So we go back to our first window and we comment this part out. Include the header and show it. See, now that our second window is here, still if we close the first window, the application is not going to close because I haven't set parent over here. See, now even though we have set parent, the second window is not going to get squashed into the UI of the first window. And also when we close the first window, the application gets closed. You can see in the application output over here in Qt, you can see it's exit with code 0. That means it ended normally. Now I'm going to show you that you might want to, close the first window when you open the second window, which is actually pretty easy. In order to do something like interacting with the UI of the current window you're working, it's not necessary to use any pointer. You can just simply use close over here. Sorry, close will close the application because it's the parent. And if the parent gets closed, remember, hide is hiding and close means closing, like totally closing it. So if you're closing the main window, that is the first window, then the application will get closed. So now if you run this, and see, now the first window has been hidden and the second window is here. And if you want to go to the first window, then we have to do something else. That is, we have to show the first window and hide, that is, delete the second window. You might not want to delete the second window. You might want to just bring up the next window. I'm going to show that later, but first now I'm going to show you how to go back there. And for that we have to edit this class a little bit. We need a reference or a pointer of the first window. I'm going to name it fstw, and I'm going to update the constructor. The constructor definition has been updated. I'm going to need it can be either private, public, or protected, that's up to you, but I'm going to need a pointer object or a pointer of the first window because we are passing it but we're not still storing it. So I'm going to name it master. It's going to be a pointer. Now in the initializer list you need to save it. Now that we are passing the instance of the first window into the second window, we can access the public functions of the first window. So within the first window I'm going to add a public function, void let's refactor this. See, it is a public declaration because we want to access it from outside the class. And here sorry, we're in the wrong place. And in here what we want to do is we want to add a button that is going to take us back. I'm going to add a slot here. I'm going to master dot, you can see our function is already here. And so you might want to, like, in this case, if you want to get rid or delete this second window, because you might not need it anymore, and you also don't want it to take your RAM space or memory. So what you want to do is this dot delete later. So this is going to delete this current window after the function execution is over. I'm not sure about this. I'm not a pro on Qt, but I know one or two things. That's why I'm making this tutorial series. So back in this function, we want to do is show. Also, type in the comment section if I'm talking too much or something. I'm always ready for constructive feedback. See, now it's working properly. We are going back and forth now, and if we go to the task manager, we can see that I'm not using Windows 11, so searching for the process is not as easy. Now if we check in the task manager, we can see right now it's 8.3 MB, and when we open this it increases to 9.7 MB, and when we go back it returns to 8.4 MB. So we can see that it's getting deleted automatically every time we go back to our main window or our first window. There are other ways in which you can delete the instance of the second window which you created from the first window. One of them is to set the delete or close property of the second window. So here we come to the second window and we do sec dot set attribute qt delete on close. Using this method, once you close the second window, it will be deleted from the RAM automatically. Sorry, I forgot to show it. As you can see, if you come to task manager, you can see it's right now 9.8 MB. Once we close it, it goes up to 8.5. Again, we open it, 9.8. When we close it, it goes to 8.5. So it's deleting itself when we close it. So you can mix and match all these methods as you see fit to launch your second window, hide your first window, and return to your first window also. So that's it for today. See you in the next video.